This is a message to all my supporters of this podcast. I'm introducing a new supporters program. You can contribute a small amount as a one-off payment to show your love for this podcast. Thank you in advance for all your contributions.
Hi, this is the Absolute Business Mindset podcast, created and hosted by Mark Hayward. I'm a corporate employee with an entrepreneurial mindset. This podcast will help and support you with new ideas about business. These are my thoughts, ideas, and comments. Today, we have an interview with Alex Leo about living abroad, marketing, and coaching. So, Alex, hello.
Hey!
Nice to speak to you again. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you. So let's just jump straight into it. So tell me about your origin story. How did it all start for you?
Oh, God. Okay. So I grew up in Slough. Now, obviously, Slough is notorious for just being not the best place in the world, I have to say. But I grew up there. I did, the standard route of GCSEs, A-levels. I then went to Cardiff University and did English literature, media, and journalism studies.
Okay. And
then from there, I literally came straight out of uni, worked for a year, and then just went traveling around South America and then just never left. So I've been in South America now for nearly 3 years.
Right.
Argentina for 2.5 years.
Right.
And that's the origin story in like the shortest format I can give it.
So you caught the bug of traveling at an early age, did you?
Oh yeah, 1,000%. Like my first trip traveling was when I was 16. I remember I went to Kenya with the school. It was kind of like a charity thing where like you go abroad and you help out in the communities and stuff like that. So I did that at 16, and we went to Mombasa in Kenya, and it was amazing. I just had such an incredible experience. From there, it was just like, I need to do this again. Like I need to have this feeling again.
Yeah.
And it just spiraled. The whole thing just spiraled.
So let's just go back to your degree, if you don't mind. So you did it was it English literature and media?
Yeah, English literature, media, and journalism studies.
So what did you hope to be a journalist with doing that degree?
Okay, so there's a story to this as well.
Okay, yeah.
So when I did my A-levels, I did English literature, religious studies, psychology at one point as well, and then I also did Spanish. Now, with this whole thing, I actually wanted to go to university and study Spanish and Latin American studies at Liverpool University. In my grades, I got A, B, D, and the D was in Spanish. Okay. So then I actually got rejected from all my universities, and I had to like run to the school, go through that whole clearing process.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then in clearing, I managed to get a spot in Cardiff University to do English lit and journalism because I got an A in it. So, I mean, at the time I was kind of like, well, this is crap. Like this is like the complete opposite of what I wanted to do. I had this vision of going abroad, living there, learning Spanish, really being involved like in the culture and stuff. And it just all came crashing down in one day. So I didn't want to go to Cardiff and do English lit, but it just worked out like that. And it definitely worked out for the best, I would say. So
yeah, so I suppose the English literature piece and sort of media and journalism sort of built on skills that you now use now. So we're going to cover later about your Facebook profile that you're big on and your marketing and your coaching. But all of this really probably helped you because of adversity. So I'm big on adversity being a true marker on people's lives, and equally doing things that you would need to present on and need to sort of be able to be well versed on talking. I suppose these were all fundamental steps to where you came to now.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. And you know what? At the time, I didn't see it. I was like, oh my God, I've just been rejected from uni. Like I'm going to a uni that I've never even visited. Like I didn't even want to do English lit. I was kind of like just done with it because it was just something that was natural for me. You know, I wanted a challenge, but I guess the universe just said, you know what, you're going to get your challenge, but now's not the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So
those were the cards.
Yeah, exactly. You can only deal with the cards that you're given, as they say.
Right.
So when we talked before about this, you told me to ask you about Magaluf. So just for my listeners and my audience, can you just tell me first of all where Magaluf is? And I know this, but what's its sort of reputation, and what did you do out there?
God.
What did you do while you were out there?
Okay, so first things first, I don't actually know where Magaluf is. I think it's like Spain. Okay, cool. So it's in Spain. Oh gosh. Okay, so when I finished A-levels, now everyone who's done A-levels knows how stressful they are. Like, they put so much pressure on you. I think even more so than university. So after A-levels, I was kind of like, I need a break. Because when I was studying, I also worked at Marks and Spencer's, which was like just down the road. So I would work like 20 hours a week. I was like completely burnt out. So by the end of it, I was like, okay, let me just get away. I need a break. I need to, just go off and relax. So my cousin at the time was out in Magaluf working like a full season, which I think is just like 4 months of the year. I think from May, June, July, August. Yeah. And so I said, okay, well, you're out there. Let me come and see you. And she was like, yeah, come. Like, we have space in our apartment, stuff like that. So went over there, and that was it. I was there for about 7 weeks. And I think for the first like 3 weeks, I probably did nothing. I think I just got up every day, went and got a tuna sandwich, and then went to the beach. And then after that, I got a job at a restaurant. I got many jobs, but like the main one I had was at a restaurant, like trying to get people in, the standard kind of PR lady outside saying, hey, no. What you doing, guys? You fancy something to eat? So that was my Magaluf experience, which, by the way, I know it has a really bad reputation, but it was like one of the best summers I've ever had in my life. And I've been traveling a hell of a lot. And Magaluf, a season in Magaluf was pretty up there.
Good. Yeah. So as you were working in those restaurants and bars and things like that, was there anything, would you say that, again, not necessarily adversity, but you were probably hard to sort of interact with people, to the customers, and you're having to entice them and persuade them and things like that. What skills did you find that you developed by doing that?
Oh God, sales. 1000%. It was like, because it was a type of marketing where you had to get in people's faces, like physically get in people's faces and be like, here's what I can offer you, right? And you would have to come up with the offer in like 1 second. And they'd be like, oh, but I saw something over in this bar. I'm like, okay, well, we can do right? So you had to be on your feet, on the ball all the time. But not only that, but be in like a really chaotic environment where it's like you're dealing with drunk people, you're dealing with people who are high or whatever, they're not their normal state. So that was, for me, that was the hardest part. And seeing how people are and seeing how they treat you, it was horrible. But it really helped me grow, like mentally. It gave me that kind of mental strength to say, okay, I can do this.
I suppose it made you tougher, because I did the similar route, as in I visited there. I didn't stay there for a season, but I visited there, and it was very much it's a tough environment to be selling a rep out there, because, as you say, people are in an altered state, let's say, and to actually sell, you have to use skills of persuasion, and you've got to think on your toes of what deals you could do, a 2-for-1 on this or whatever. Were you given a prep by the company you work for, the restaurant or the bar, or were you basically doing it off the hoof and just sort of playing with the people that you were working or that you were interacting with on deals that you thought you could to get them into the restaurant or bar?
Yeah, so for me, what I would do is I would look at the other girls, like the really good ones, and then just mimic them. Like that's exactly how I learned Spanish. I would just mimic, just look at, the best people and just see, okay, what is she doing?
Yeah.
Right? Like one of the tactics, for example, that I saw one of the girls doing, she would grab the arm of the guys, like she would grab their arm and lead them into the bar.
Right.
But it was almost like that physical touch. It was like she made that kind of weird connection. I don't know. It wasn't anything sexual, but it was just like she had the balls to do that. So yeah, it was a really tough environment, 1,000%. But I would do it all over again.
So one of the things we've talked about is your marketing experience and knowledge. What was your inspiration for marketing?
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hi, I'm Alex, the host of X Health Show. Meet the future of healthcare. Think X-Men, that's X Health. Actual superheroes behind programming living cells to cure cancer once and for all. Tech that detects preterm delivery in seconds, brain-computer interface, or apps that employ AI to match you, your disease, with the best treatment. X Health Show brings to you visionaries who push the boundaries of healthcare from Switzerland, the heart of Europe and the most innovative country in the world. Let me introduce you to their startups. Head to X Health Show, meet the future of healthcare. Happy to greet you there.
Oh, my inspiration. I have no idea, to be honest. I honestly think with marketing, I feel like I fell into marketing. Like, I don't even know how I started it or how I even got into it. I wasn't planning to go down this route. It just happened for me. But I think for me, like what I'm kind of naturally good at is really looking at, what is the problem? What is the solution? And then reverse engineering it. Right. So looking at the problem and then going, okay, here's the steps we can do, walking backwards to kind of reach the solution. So yeah, but in terms of inspiration, growing up, I never really had that much inspiration. It's only now that I'm in the marketing world that I see it's available, with like Gary Vee and people like that. Like, because for me, marketing and self-development are very interlinked, and I'm very into self-development. And I honestly think now, even thinking about it, I think that's where the link came in for me. Right. Because a lot of these entrepreneurs, they have the mindset, right? The business mindset. Now, where does that mindset come from? It comes from spirituality. Business is spiritual. So I got into spirituality when I was about 18, because we all go through some messed up stuff when we're 16 or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, okay, how can I get over this? How can I, take this out of my mind or whatever? So I remember reading, it's called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah. So meditation.
Have you read it?
Yeah. I've read some of the book. It's one of those that I sort of dip in and out of. I haven't read that book, but I take snippets from when I sort of need that moment. So yeah.
Yeah. It's a really intense book. So you like read a little bit and then you have to like put it down and think. Yeah. But yeah, there was like this part in the book that talked about the pain body and how we like to experience pain. When we go for a painful experience, we sometimes go back to it and we feel it in our throat. We feel it in our body, and then we get emotional. And that was happening to me a lot. And I was like, okay, how can I get rid of this? And the book gives you a tactic to get rid of it. I think it's called like cord cutting or something. Anyway, I did that and that really helped me. And that's kind of how I got into the whole thing, because I started reading, more spiritual books, more kind of like self-help books. And then that gradually led down into like the entrepreneurial route and looking at these top dogs like Tony Robbins and people like that.
So before we go too much into the business, let's talk a little bit about meditation. Do you meditate every day, or do you dip in and out when you feel that you need it at the moment?
It's really interesting that you asked me this, because when we first spoke, I didn't do it every day. now I'm doing it every day.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because well, the other day, like 2 weeks ago, I did this meditation it's called, I can't even remember what it's called, but it's by this lady called Alexandra Roxo, and it's on the app Insight Timer. And it was amazing. Like, I literally had an emotional release on the meditation.
Wow.
Because it was using sound and breathing and like doing breath work and stuff like that. And it was, when I did it, I almost got this feeling of like something heavy being lifted off my shoulders. Like, I really kind of saw what my issue was in my life right now and saw the solution and how to get there. So from that, I've been doing it every day. Yeah.
So you've actually had a sort of revelation in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I have. I know. It's been amazing. Also very scary.
Yes, I can understand that. Yeah.
Very scary. But at the moment, like where I'm at right now, I just feel like the universe is just saying, take a leap, jump straight in. So that's what I'm doing. So
actually, let's just go back one step before that. So like 2 weeks ago when we first linked on Facebook Messenger, I actually asked a question to a Facebook group and you actually responded and we're going to talk about your business coaching in a minute or so. I just wanted to, is this something like, because networking is really important, and whether you're networking through a Facebook group asking a question, or just sometimes there's an opportunity you see on an Instagram post and you DM them or whatever it is networking important for you? Because obviously you're in Buenos Aires, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes as well. So sort of networking across countries and things like that, is this something that is important? Do you flex that sort of muscle quite a lot?
Oh yeah, 1,000%. The whole coaching world is built on relationships. It's built on how well you can connect with the next person. And so being that person, that answers someone's question in a Facebook group is what's going to actually make you stand out as someone that actually cares, right? Because there's a saying that someone told me the other day. It was something like, they don't know how much you care. No, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
And that was a really pivotal moment for me when I heard that, because that's why networking is so important. It's important to show up for your people and show them that you're here for them at whatever stage of the journey they're in, and that you're there as a guiding force to help them. So yeah, 1,000%. Networking is the key, basically.
And I remember I read something, it was either social media or a website, that networking with people with similar mindset or a similar like idea or sort of like, if it's marketing or whatever it is it actually easier when you have a passion and you actually want to deliver on that, rather than the sort of, when I first tried networking events when I was in my early 20s, not really knowing where I wanted to go, it was all very much I'd turn up and awkwardly have a drink and maybe speak to people, 2 or 3 people, and think like, what's this all about? Now I sort of know my calling and I know what I want to do with my life more. I wouldn't say I know it completely, but I know more about it. It's like now it's on social media and things like that, like reaching out to people is a lot easier because I sort of know where I want to go. Is that your experience as well? Networking with people that you have similar mindset with is really.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. Like now, because I was saying this the other day as well, is that it gets really hard to network with people when you don't show up as fully you. Like if you're showing up as someone else, you're putting on a persona, you're being not your full self. Like it gets tiring showing up as that person and being interactive in a conversation, because usually you're interacting with people who aren't on your level. They're not on your same frequency, or, you know, again, like you said, have similar interests. So it's tiring. It takes the energy out of you. So yeah, 1000%, you have to definitely network with people that have the same mindset and the same, you know, at least a similar path to you. But also, in order to do that, you have to show up as you.
Yeah. So
that's the key.
Yeah. So you mentioned about self-development. So who were the people that sort of drove your love for self-development? Was it? So for me, it was Tony Robbins initially. I think a lot of people get started with Tony Robbins, whether it's from YouTube or I heard someone tell me that Tony Robbins on cassette. Now that's probably 20, 30 years ago were people using cassettes, but so he's been around a long time. But who was your sort of inspiration when it comes to self-development?
Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Oh, I don't know him. Who's Dr. Wayne Dyer?
Oh gosh. Oh, you have to check him out. He is amazing. But I do have to say he's dead now. Rest in peace. But yeah, and I actually found out about him because he died. So like I have this guy on Facebook who's also very successful, and he posted about you know, Dr. Wayne dying, and he was like, oh, you know, this guy was like super inspirational for me, blah blah blah. And because he posted it, I was like, oh, let me check him out. So I think I first read The Secrets to the Power of Intention, and it blew my mind. It's still one of my most favorite books. I've listened, like, I never really read books that much anymore. I just listen to them.
Yeah,
but
me too.
yeah, so I listened to his book about 4 times.
Wow.
Yeah, like it's one of those where you just have to go back and back and back and back. Like you have to keep going over it because there's so much in it, right? And you want to get it in your head. So yeah, so Dr. Wayne Dyer for sure. Following on from that, I think, you know, Esther Hicks, 100% with the law of attraction. And I don't know if there's a second one for me, because for me, Dr. Wayne Dyer just trumps them all. Like,
well, to be honest, I've never heard of Dr. Wayne Dyer. I will check that out. And one of the things I love about doing this podcast is when you speak to people say, oh, this book, this person inspired me. And I always love being able to take something away from these interviews. So I will check out Dr. Wayne Dyer and maybe give a recommendation on social media if I love it. So thank you for that.
Yes.
Back to...
Yes, definitely. Check him out. He's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I will. So on to marketing. So we've talked about, when we were talking before, about social media and the impact that it's had on basically everyone who's in business now. Everyone who's in business uses social media in some capacity, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. What's the sort of strategies that you have, either that you implement or that you suggest to your clients?
Okay, so there's a few strategies. So for me, especially in the business coaching world, I'm just going to talk in this context because that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
So for me, with social media, first of all, you have to pick your platform. And I remember we were talking about this, right? Like, find the platform that you are most aligned with. So whether that's Instagram, you know, with the stories and the Instagram live and the Instagram TV, run with that. Or whether it's Facebook and it's the Facebook groups and it's going live and, you know, showing up there, then run with that. But find the platform that you are most aligned with. And then from there, show up every day. Because you need to build an audience. You need to build an audience that not only know and trust you, but love you. Like the people that are your raging fans, you know, the people that are going to speak for you on like in other Facebook groups and recommend you on another person's post or whatever. So yeah, first of all, pick your platform, show up every day. Another thing that I'm a big advocate is obviously just show up as yourself. Like, don't try and be someone else. Like, don't try and, you know, write your posts and edit them and then rewrite them. Like, no, just post, just be your true, authentic self. And for me, that was probably the hardest part, because you know, when you're in the coaching world, there's so many coaches out there. So it's likely that you've taken a course or two or whatever. So you've already got kind of like some idea of how it all works. And there's a lot of rules and regulations that say you can't do certain things. And so with that, you know, you generally feel quite restricted. So for me, I had to really strip that back and say, okay, what am I doing wrong? Like something's not moving, like I wasn't gaining traction. And it was only until I started showing up as my full self did things start changing. So like for example, I would write how I speak. Now, I've said it before, like I'm from Slough, and Slough's quite known for being a bad place, and it is. And in Slough, we talk pretty ghetto. Like we're naturally quite ghetto.
Yeah.
So for me, like if I'm talking with my friends or whatever, you know, I'll say things like bruv or bruh, or, you know, like I'll swear a ton as well. Like right now I'm trying to like keep it down a little bit, but like I'll swear a lot. You know, my business is called Fizz Biz Shit, like, because that's how I speak. That's who I am. So, and it's funny because the moment I started doing that, the moment I started writing how I speak, showing up exactly as who I am in real life, people actually started to like be like, oh my God, who's this girl? Like, I like her energy. Da, da, da. Mm-hmm. So that's a big one. Show up as yourself, show up every day, you know, get in front of your audience and build that like, know, and trust factor.
So is it an element of being on, because it's a self-reflection moment there really, to understand who you really are and who you want to be, and then delivering on that. So is there an honesty with yourself as well as your audience?
Oh yeah, 1,000%. Because here's the thing, this is where it gets tricky. We think we're showing up as our authentic self, but we're not. Like we're not. If you're not getting traction on social media, it's because you're not showing up as you. 1,000%. That's because we're so unique. We all have our own like little quirks and funny things that we do. Like for example, I eat everything with ketchup. Like I'm known for being the ketchup girl. So I'll post about that on social media because it makes me human. It shows that, you know, I have these little things that I do that people can relate to or people can react to, right? Because you need to show up in your personality so that you can give people an opportunity to react to you, whether that be good or bad. And that reaction is what forms the basis for the relationship. When you have a relationship, you have the connection. When you have the connection, you have the potential sale.
So awesome. So one of the things we talked about that I thought would be interesting to talk about was brand stories. Something you said to me. You told me there's a good story that you can tell me about brand stories. So please tell me.
Okay. So brand stories. This is something that my coach taught me. And I definitely heard of brand stories before I heard it from her, but I just didn't really see how it was that important. So especially if you're in the coaching world, it's really important to have 2 to 3 brand stories which tell the tale of pivotal moments in your life. So usually what they'll tell is like a transformation. So like I went from this to this, you know, rags to riches, or, you know, sleeping out on the street to 5-figure earner or something like that. Like you need to have 2 to 3 brand stories which like pinpoint a transformation in your life. So say, for example, for me, one of my brand stories is that I'm from Slough, which is a very well-known shitty town, to now living in Argentina and living my dream abroad, right? That's a brand story. That's something that people can relate to and that people can aspire to, because it's something that's a little bit out of the ordinary. So that's one brand story. Another brand story might be, you know, last year, and I talk about this a lot, is that last year I was working in a job that gave me like a lot of anxiety. Like I really hated it. I was being spoken to like shit all the time, you know, really being put down in my work, and I was in a terrible place, and I would get anxiety, and that would show up when I slept. Like I would sleep and I would clench my teeth in the night, and the next day my jaw would be in agony. And I was like, and I didn't understand why. I'd wake up and be like, why is my jaw hurt? Like I couldn't open my mouth. And I didn't understand it until it kind of clicked for me. And then I was like, right, I need to get out of this job ASAP. Did a whole 360, started, doing the cliche thing of working on myself, working on my life, blah, 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 switched things around, and was earning double my income, working half the hours within 2 months. So that's another brand story that I talk about. And in that, I think key thing is you really need to pinpoint the pain. People love the pain. Like the part in the story where that was your moment, where things just clicked for you. So for me, it was waking up and my jaw not opening, like because I was so stressed and because I was so anxiety ridden. Yeah. And the scary part was that I wasn't even aware of it. That's what really scared me. So, and I guess that shows you like the power of stress in the body, right? How it's so interconnected. So that's that's my advice. Basically, just be vulnerable as hell, put all your shitty stories out there, and hope for the best.
Well, it's obviously doing very well for you. It's interesting when we think about brand, we always think. I initially think about companies' brands, like they build it with a logo, and the logo's telling you this or that, and then the story behind the business. But actually, more and more people are using brand, like your own social brand, your own personal brands that people are trying. And that was initiated with things like the Kardashians or David Beckham. What is the strategy between a brand story for a company or a brand story for an individual different, or do they follow the same strategies?
I'm not an expert on this, but I would say that yes, they follow the same strategies, but I think with personal brands, I feel like this is where kind of like your brand values come in. Sorry, not with personal brands, like the company brands. I feel like with those guys, they outline their values, and then from their values, that's where they build their stories. Right. Whereas, with personal brands, again, there's values involved as well, but maybe on a smaller scale. I feel like with personal brands, you pinpoint more on the actual stories, and then you just tell them again and again and again. Right. And yeah, sorry, go on.
So one of your brand stories is that you were living in Slough and you've moved to Buenos Aires. So tell me about Buenos Aires. What made you move there? We've talked about doing Spanish, so there seems to be some like. But what made you go to Buenos Aires and then stay?
I went to Buenos Aires because, so before I started traveling, I really wanted to, do the whole secure thing where I was like, I want to get a job in the country before I arrive. And which is obviously a very British thing to do. And I was looking for jobs online on like one of these kind of like job exchange places or whatever. It's called Jobs Abroad, I think. And I managed to find like a position teaching English in Buenos Aires. Right. And it was a thing where I could teach English for like 4 hours a day. And then I just got free room on board. So I was like, okay, this sounds good. Let me do that. I had like a Skype call with the family and stuff, and they were really lovely. So I was like, this makes sense. And also like our traveling trip went from Colombia and we worked our way down to Argentina. So it actually worked out well in terms of, the itinerary and stuff. That's just how it happened pretty much. I got the job, I went traveling, and then I finished in Argentina, and then I just stayed. I didn't do the teaching job for very long. I did it for like 5 weeks. And that's a whole nother story. But after that, I got a job doing event marketing for a Canadian company. And yeah, that's pretty much where I learned everything about marketing.
Right. So let's just keep on Buenos Aires for a minute. So, so what's it like? How is it different to Slough or London or the UK, let's say?
Yeah.
And sort of like, should I visit? I've never been to Buenos Aires, never been to Argentina. Should I take a visit soon?
Oh yeah, definitely. Mainly just because I'm here. And then it depends what you like. I mean, if it's if you're into trekking and like being in nature and all that good stuff, then yes, definitely come to Buenos Aires, because you can head to, oh god, my cat's going crazy, but you can head to the south of Argentina and it is stunning. I still haven't been because I've been here for so long. I'm just like, I'll go whenever, whatever, like it's fine, I've got all the time in the world. But yeah, the pictures I've seen though are pretty incredible. So it depends what you like.
And how many years have you been there?
2.5 years now.
2.5.
Yeah. But going back to your question, I think for me, the main difference is, well, actually, I don't think there's that much difference. Like physically, it's very similar to London. Like the way it looks, the way it feels, the little bit of the craziness and stuff like that. But culture-wise, it's very different. Like, for example, here it's very common for the Argentine family to kind of like sit down and have at least like lunch and dinner together. Like they will always sit at the table and they will always have that family kind of moment.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like in England, that's not as prominent. I don't know. I guess it depends on the family.
I'd 100% agree. Like when I grew up, we had that sort of mentality of sitting down and having dinner. But even now with my job and what I do, I very rarely sit down with dinner with my kids because they have it earlier. So I would 100% agree that culturally that is very different. How's your Spanish?
My Spanish is good. I'm fluent now, I would say. I'm very fluent, yeah. It was a very hard journey, though. It wasn't, like, it was probably the hardest thing I think I've ever done in my life. Is learning another language, because it's so lonely. It's so lonely. Like, for the first 6 months, I didn't speak a word. I was so ashamed of speaking and, just showing up in a conversation. Like, I didn't speak a word. I was like a mute. And it was hard because, I was in a shared house with 22 people, and they were all kind of, they were all from like different areas in Europe, different countries in Europe. And they were all so good at Spanish. They were all just like, chatting away, having jokes. And I couldn't get involved. I couldn't be a part of that, of the joke or the conversation. And it was just like, okay, I'll just sit here and smile, So, super lonely for like the first 6 months. But then after I got over the fear, it became very, like, I learned really quickly. I could speak very well after about a year, but it took, like, the first 6 months was like grueling. It was really hard.
So what actually triggered that fear? What not triggered the fear? What triggered the fear for you to get over that fear and just sort of try and interact and sort of pidgin Spanish is what they call it in England. Just things to get by. What broke that mentality, that mindset for you just to go, I've just got to do this. I've got to go out there and speak Spanish.
I think I just had this moment of fuck this. Like, I literally just had this fuck this shit moment where I was like, I am so done of being the silent person, like the person that doesn't speak. And I think to top it off, I remember the moment as well. So like at the time I was with this Argentinian dude, and it was like his birthday and we were at his house for a barbecue with friends and stuff. And, like that was really hard because it was like, 10 Argentinian people all chatting, all having jokes, making music, whatever. And I couldn't like interact, even though I understood everything they were saying. I just had this fear of talking. And I just had this moment where I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to talk and I'm just not going to give a fuck. I was just like, I am done. I am so done, because like, for me, naturally, I'm quite an expressive person. I'm quite out there. Like, I'm a loudmouth. I was like the class clown in school, right? So to then be that person that doesn't speak and is silent and is fearful, that was hard, because that wasn't me. That wasn't me at all. So that was the breaking point. I just had this moment of just being like, fuck it, I'm just going to do it. Like, and if I make a ton of mistakes, so what? Right.
That is absolutely commendable. I'd say that's a great story for my listeners and my audience to hear, because sometimes you do just have that moment where you're just like, I can't do this anymore. I can't be that person. I don't want to be that person. I need to show my personality. And as you've spoken a couple of times today about your personality, you need to show your personality to people, whether it's face to face or on social media or online, anywhere. Showing yourself is important as well. So well done. I think that's totally commendable. Say, like, a lot of people, there would be people here that might think, oh, well, I can't do this, I've got to go home. But you actually had that moment. You're like, I'm going to immerse myself, and even if I make a mistake, it's fine. Yeah.
And it's so hard, because you are going to make a mistake, and you're not just going to make one mistake, you're going to make 20,000, and people are going to look at you with blank stares, like with their eyes wide, like, what the fuck are you saying? Right? And you just have to get over it. You just have to be like, you know what? I'm fucking speaking whether you like it or not. Yeah. Right? So, and that's the moment you have to get to. You just have to put all the rules in the air and just be like, I'm done. I'm out here. I'm here to speak.
Good. Awesome. So so you've mentioned a couple of times about your coach, your mentor that's had an impact on your career and your life. Just tell me a little bit about him or her.
Yeah. Well, her name is Carissa Johnson. She's originally from the US. I'm not really sure where, but she's from there. I found her pretty much just on social media. I think I was following her coach. Her coach is like super well known in the coaching world. And I just really loved how they both really like showed up. They really showed up in their personalities, like just being weird and wacky and just out there, whatever. Like, they just showed up as them. So so I made a connection with her on Instagram, and we would just kind of like, we would have like jokes, and she would, you know, write under my posts or whatever. And then that kind of like what sparked the relationship, right? Again, going back to connection, she made a connection with me. And then from there, I just kept more of an eye on like her stuff and the things she was putting out there. And it just propped up as of, I think it was January, February. Yeah, like February, March time, she was coming out with a mastermind. And that was it. We jumped on a sales call, and I was pretty sold within like the first 5 minutes. But again, it was a very, it was this moment of like, oh my God, because I pay £600 a month for this mastermind, which for anyone is a big, you know, it's a big commitment.
Yeah.
Right. And it's for 6 months. So, yeah, it was scary, and it's still scary. It doesn't get like, you know, the fear doesn't go away. It's still here with me, but at the same time, I'm the best investment that I'll ever make. Yeah. Right? If I can't invest in myself, then who the hell can invest in me?
Yeah.
Like, I need to show up for myself so that other people can show up for themselves in my space. So
yeah, no, I totally understand that. And one of the things that I wanted to just talk to you about, because we've sort of touched on this a couple of times, is so believing in yourself is, I think believing in yourself is your first stage to mastery, whether you're wanting to be a master at coaching or mastering at marketing, whatever it is. Would you agree? Do you think when you're talking to when you're coaching people, is that your starting point to get them to truly believe in themselves first?
Oh yeah, 1,000%, 1,000%. And there's so many ways you can go about this as well. And I'll talk about a few like tactics that I use and that I have used. But yeah, belief is your foundation. I talk about this a lot, and I call it the law of. Wait, do I call it the law of decision? Okay, you have the law of decision, where it's like that moment, the fuck this shit moment, where you're just like, okay, I'm done. I'm deciding that this is for me. But then following on from that, you need to have unwavering belief. You need to truly believe that this is for you, that this is the path that you have chosen and that you're committed to. And I think as well that, you know, our beliefs, and they talk about this a lot in the coaching world, and that is our beliefs affect how we show up, you know, how we take action in our daily lives. So, for example, if you show up in uncertainty, if you're unsure about your expertise, then people are going to be unsure about your results, right? Someone who's a piano player and has, you know, studied their art for 10,000 hours and doesn't have the belief, they're not going to have the, I guess, like the power to make others believe in them as well. Because in order for people to follow you and in order for you to lead other people, you need to lead in unwavering belief. They need to have confidence in you and trust. And that doesn't come from uncertainty. And there's another thing I want to talk about just while we're on the topic of beliefs, is that a lot of our beliefs are formed from the age of like, 6 and 10, you know, like the really early years.
Yep.
And not to sound mean, but a lot of these come from our parents, right? Our parents' messed up mindset. Like, for example, and I know this is going to resonate with a lot of people, but like, for example, my dad used to always say to me, you know, money doesn't grow on trees. Money doesn't grow on trees. So I then grew up with the belief that money couldn't be abundant. Money couldn't be in overflow in your life. It was something that was restricted, or, you know, it wasn't fully there, kind of thing. So that, you know, those beliefs I then carried into my adult life. And now it's something I have to unravel and I have to work through. And I have to say, no, money can be abundant for me. Money can show up for me in my life. I can have more than I think I can have. Right?
I think that's absolutely true. And it's something I've not really sort of broached on my podcast, but I do honestly believe that every parent, whether they were good, bad, indifferent, whatever scale they are, they sort of mess you up, whatever they do, whether they are too nice to you and you get a bad expectation on maybe being naive, or equally if they hurt you, then they're going to mess you up on you not trusting people. So I do kind of think that there is no idea. I'm now a parent myself, and I'm now looking at these situations where I'm like, this is a complete minefield for me and my kids. So I totally believe that like every parent sort of does their best, but equally they can damage. So like you were saying about belief, they can damage your belief on how you're going to grow up. So I would say it's common. People that are self-aware have to break down those sort of building blocks their parents gave them and sort of reset them for how they want them to do. So I think that's really fascinating. Just tell me a little bit more. So not necessarily about what things did you break down to start again, but the sort of mindset that you did. So was that with your coach, or was that a journey that you went through yourself?
Yeah, I'll give you another example. This is a really good one, actually. And it's one that revealed itself to me whilst I was doing a coaching program. So I did a coaching program back in January, and it was won by Lauren Elise Love, and it's called Six Figure Biz Babe or something. It's really good. It's pretty good. And she, you know, the first kind of module in the program was all about limiting beliefs and understanding what our beliefs are and rewriting them for new ones that actually serve us. Because when we have beliefs that are actually abundant and true and, you know, opening, like the way, you know, how we take action in our life changes. So for example, you know, because it's almost like an unconscious thing. Like we don't realize we have these beliefs, but we actually do. So for me, one of the first exercises we did was, you know, write down the first thing you believe to be true about money. Right. And then that's where money doesn't grow on trees came from. And I would go back. I had to recall experiences with my parents where this came up in conversation. And then I had to rewrite the belief and say, no, money can be abundant. Money does come in overflow. And then write out all the reasons or like things that have happened in my life that support that as evidence, that new belief as evidence. And here's another one. So this was a big one for me, and especially for those in the coaching world. I grew up with the saying that children are meant to be seen and not heard. Yeah. Right? That was a big one in my household. So I grew up with, you know, the idea that I could be seen, but I wasn't allowed to speak. Again, look how this links with the whole learning Spanish and trying to speak in Buenos Aires. You know, some people, when they learn a new language, they jump straight in, they start making mistakes, they're speaking all the time. I wasn't like that, right? So you have to link back, okay, where did I learn, or when did I learn that it wasn't okay to speak, right? So that's one connection. I even just realized that now on this call. But another connection I just made was that when I started, you know, showing up in the coaching world, a big thing that you have to do is show up online. You have to be present on social media. Yep. And a lot of limiting beliefs come up, which say that, you know, I don't want to annoy other people. They're going to think like, what the hell is she doing? You know, people from my school are going to see me, or like people from my old workplaces, what are they going to think, right? So all these self-sabotaging actions start propping up, and you have to recognize them and say, okay, something is happening here. Something is going down here. There is a belief that is sitting in my mind and is squashing me. It is oppressing me, and it is showing up in the action that I am not taking. Yep. So that was a big one that I had to work through. But yeah, that's how limiting beliefs work pretty much.
So moving on slightly, so you're now moving more into the coaching arena yourself rather than being the mentee. So how's that transition going? You said to me that you were going to get full-time soon. How's that transition for you?
Yeah, I would like to say it's a smooth transition, but but yeah, probably not. I think I've gotten to this stage now where it's like, I need to start practicing what I preach. Like, I talk a lot about having unwavering belief and, you know, making that decision and just jumping in with it. And I honestly now feel like, I feel like every entrepreneur gets to this point where they're just like, I either go all in or I'm not in at all. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm at that point, but also that I just need to show up for myself. I need to just jump in, balls to the wall, and just go for it, right? That's where I'm at right now. So where are we? 23rd of June. I think end of this month, I'm going full-time into coaching. Awesome. And I'm just jumping in. I'm going to show up every day on live video. I'm going to show up every day on Facebook, giving my all, connecting with people, and it's going to friggin' work out. It has no other option.
So what, so did you start with a few people that you're coaching, or are you just going to, as you say, go all in, your chips in, and I'm just going to make this work? Or have you got a few people that you're sort of coaching at the moment just to check that there was a market there that you could transition into? Or are you just going, this is my life, I'm going to do it?
I'm just going, this is my life and I'm going to do it.
Awesome. Awesome.
100%. Like, I mean, there's a couple of things I want to do. So it's not just coaching. I also want to build an ad agency.
Okay.
Like doing basically lead generation and Facebook and Google ads for local companies based in like Berkshire or whatever.
Right.
So that's another thing I really want to build up. So, and that's the thing, like a good coach, and I heard this recently and I think it's so true, and that's a good coach knows more than one thing. Like, right? Like someone who knows something outside of coaching, like coaching isn't the be all and end all. You can have a PR company and a coaching company. You can have a blog and do influencer posts and have a coaching company. Like you can do anything, like, right? That's the whole point of this podcast. You can do whatever the fuck you want. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm jumping into. I want to build my ad agency and I want my coaching world. So that's the direction I'm heading.
Awesome. So, we've talked a couple of things about earlier on about the choosing your platform and sort of then working hard on that platform. So you've chosen Facebook. So just a little bit of background, why you chose Facebook, how easy or hard it is to leverage Facebook for a business. Just some background about that.
Yeah. I mean, I originally started off with Instagram, and I really found it difficult to kind of build connections there because I guess with Instagram, like people aren't grouped in categories. So you see with Facebook, you have Facebook groups and stuff like that. Like that doesn't really exist on Instagram. So for me, there wasn't that tribe mentality. Like there was no space to have a tribe there. And so I switched gears to Facebook and I started seeing traction, basically. I started making connections with more people, building relationships. And it was really surprising because I really thought Instagram was my place because I loved Instagram stories. I loved that whole thing. Yeah. Anyway, switched to Facebook, started going well. And then it just went from there. But I think the biggest thing that Facebook has over Instagram is the Facebook groups, because that's how you find your ideal client, right? You find the people that are on the same vibe and the same wavelength as you by looking at Facebook and saying, okay, this is a Facebook for law of attraction, like tribe members, and you teach law of attraction, that's where you want to be. Yeah. So Facebook groups for sure. For me, what I do, this is kind of like my marketing tactic right now. I prefer live video. Like I like being live. I like being on camera, have a little bit of an acting background. Yes. So, live video comes really naturally to me. And then from there, what I tend to do, I'm in a lot of Facebook groups and I just show up. I interject conversations, just being my full authentic self, being the loudmouth, happy Alex. And people are attracted to that. They see my page. They're like, oh, she has a Facebook group. Let me go in her Facebook group, and then they connect with me more. So for me, Facebook is a great place to build connections and build up your business. You just need to be showing up in the right places, right? So leverage Facebook groups, interject appropriately in conversations, show up as your full authentic self, and people will just be attracted to you. Like they'll just be attracted to your energy.
Okay, so we're just going to wrap up now. I've got one last question. So will you ever return to the UK, or do you think you will be? Do you think you will travel to another location or stay in Buenos Aires? What's your longer term ambition?
Okay, so I want to go back to the UK. Like I would be. I don't know. Well, yeah, I would probably be back in the UK right now, but I also have an Argentinian partner and it's a little bit difficult for us. Obviously with the whole Brexit thing and, standard visa rules, like it's not as easy. So I actually tell you and everyone listening. So in February, we actually tried to go to the UK. Well, my boyfriend tried to come over and he got rejected. Like his entry got denied. So So he got sent back to Buenos Aires. I went back with him on the same flight.
Right.
And then, and we've been in Buenos Aires ever since. So right now we're going through the whole visa process and all that stuff. So as soon as that comes through, then yeah, we'll be in England in a jiffy, basically.
Awesome. Okay, Alex, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's been really interesting to get your insight into the world of marketing and coaching and then living abroad as well. It's been fascinating to hear that story. I think that's quite unique from the people that have been on my podcast before. So thank you very much.
Oh, no, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed just showing up here and being my usual loudmouth self.
So just before we go, why don't you tell us where people can find you?
Okay, so you can find me on Facebook under Alexandra Leo. My profile is completely open, so you can see anything on there. You can add me as a friend, whatever. Like, I'm totally cool. And also, I have a Facebook group called Fierce Biz Shit. So that's Fierce and then BIZ Shit. And then also on Instagram as well, same thing, Fierce Biz Shit. Alexandra Leo, you'll see me on there.
Awesome. So what I'll do is I'll put your details in the show notes. So if anyone wants to reach out to you, then they can get you there. Again, thank you very much for your time. It's been really, really fascinating.
No, thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed speaking with you on here.
Okay, guys, thank you very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed that. You can find me on Instagram, Mark J. Hayward, on Twitter, Mark Hayward169. Also, there you can check me out on the podcast and the YouTube, which this will be put on very, very soon. So from me, thank you very much, and we'll speak to you soon. Thank you.
News, laws, and regulations are changing by the day. We get it. And at ADP, we're here to help guide you with up-to-the-minute compliance expertise, so you can pay your people accurately and on time, regardless of what each new day may bring. Learn more at adp.com.